Gang, gang.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Olivier, your host at Revenue Systems Decoded. And today I'm joined by Nick Tomic, founder and CEO of Face to Face. You might have seen him on LinkedIn already, and if not, probably on some SaaS conference trying to interview you. At least that's how we met. But other than that, I'll pass the torch to you, Nick. Really excited to have you here.
Yo, what's up, Olivier? Nice to be here, bro.
Cool. So, who's Nick and what does Face to Face do?
Wow. You're really throwing me a hard ball here. I haven't had to pitch myself in forever. But yeah, okay, let's dive into it. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Tomic, and yeah, I used to introduce myself by saying I'm a high school dropout and I started working in tech, but now I'm 25 years old, so no one really cares about that anymore. A long time has passed since. Yeah, I think it's always a fun fact to mention. I'm like what you call a dude that's done a lot of different things in a short amount of time. So yeah, and all these things, including interviewing 350 SaaS founders on the topic of product market fit. Check out productmarketfit.io. All these things have led me to face-to-face.io. It's a technology I built which allows you to FaceTime your prospects on your website or inside your SaaS. So this is what I'm currently working on. We're a couple months into it, like 9 months since we started, I think. Maybe a bit, maybe less, 8, 9, something like that. And yeah, it's going great. Getting a lot of insights. Got about 50 something customers. Olivier is one of them. And yeah.
Cool.
What do you think we should talk about?
No, yeah, definitely. We'll talk about some outbound and other revenue strategies you've been applying. So, maybe a couple of steps back, right? So you said you're obviously still young, 25. Many listeners might think you're young. Maybe others still think you're old. I don't know, honestly, right now, what's like the demographics of our audience, but I can only hope that they find some value in this. So the goal is definitely today to learn more about how did you what kind of learnings have you been leveraging already from interviewing all these founders, as well as what do you see as like the B2B growth playbook in 2025, if we could have that as final outcome while having some fun conversation. That would be an awesome objective today. So definitely, we met at B2B Rocks at a side event where I saw you with a mic, the one you're holding right now, interviewing Stefan from Expandi. And so I was like, okay, who's this dude? Then I found out you're there with like a crew filming everything. Then turns out that guy, I had a call with that guy like the week before, who runs a YouTube agency, Jake Trinder. Definitely look him up. So then I was like, wow, this is insane. And then we had a burger together and a beer, and now we're here basically. Why are you interviewing founders, and how has it helped you in the early days of face to face to get your first customers?
Yeah. Okay, cool. By the way, shout out Jake Trinder. Dude put his $80,000 per month YouTube agency on the side to come join me in Paris to interview a couple founders. That was like, it was crazy. People are like, they're wondering what I'm doing as if like I'm the big shot, but my videographer makes like 10 times more money than I do. It's just the funniest thing ever. Anyway, shout out Jake. If you guys need video services, if you want a YouTube channel for your SaaS, this guy's the absolute goat. So besides plugging Jake with absolutely nothing out of it, I'm
I'll have to put the promotional content on.
yeah, just go like sponsored by,
Yeah.
and then you can sue him later. Um, why did I start interviewing founders? It's a good question. So I used to run like a tire business back in Montreal. That was like after a career of 3 years in tech, making a really good name for myself there. I started like a redneck tire business, and that tire business led to absolutely nothing except me automating absolutely everything about the business. And my friends who were running tech companies were like, "Nick, can you please come automate our businesses?" So I was like this automation wizard between a RevOps and like a MarOps and whatever. And so that was what I did for fun. And that led me into automating the Bubble RFP system, right? So on bubble.io, you have RFPs coming through. And I was like one of the guys that as soon as an RFP comes through, I would send them a personalized email within 5 minutes of them submitting their RFP using ChatGPT before it was ChatGPT. So it was GPT 2.0 back then, Da Vinci, right? That got me 70 demos booked out of 600 RFPs. It was absolutely nuts. In like 1 month, I had my pipeline full, and that led to me starting to build MVPs for SaaS founders or wannabe SaaS founders. So in that year following that RFP bot, where I ran it for 1 month and I never ran it again. I got too much business out of it. I started basically building SaaS MVPs on Bubble. So the first version of a SaaS. You know what, Olivier? Out of the 12 SaaS MVPs I built, 11 of them went absolutely nowhere. Like not even 10 users, right? I was shocked. I stopped like 9 months into it and I was like, what the heck is going on? Why is like no one getting any results? And that after interviewing all my clients and seeing what happened, I realized that no one had any idea how to bring a product to market. So I became obsessed by this topic of product market fit. And I got some tickets to go to SaaS Talk. I bought this microphone when I landed in Dublin on the morning of SaaS Talk. And then I went there and I was like, I walked in, I'm like, I'm going to interview founders. And after a couple shots of whiskey, that's what I started doing. And yeah. That first interview, bro, was so weird. Like, swear to God, we walked into the conference, me and my buddy. I was like, here, you hold the camera. I have the mic. Let's go. We walk in, we do a quick round. We're like, we have no idea what we're doing. It was my first trade show ever, right? So I was like terrified. So like, okay, bro, we need to get drunk. Thankfully, there's a nice pub right outside of the Royal Dublin Society. So we got drunk and then we went back in and did 45 founder interviews that day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, they always say that, right? Like the best, the best learnings is by doing, and you know, there's always like the higher your bias to action, the more successful the entrepreneur is usually. At least some successful people who come on this show tell me that you should do more and think less. So I think you did great on that. Maybe it was the whiskey, but
Yeah, I mean the whiskey was just like, we just landed in Dublin, like let's just drink whiskey. Like I'm not an alcoholic or anything. But it was a vibe. We had like 2-3 shots. It was nothing crazy.
sure.
But enough to get cranking. And we actually started, the first interview was in the pub. It was with some enterprise sales guys, and then we realized that they weren't founders and we shouldn't talk to them. So we just went back inside. And so I've done 350 interviews at this point, and my number one learning, I guess, is it has a lot to do with what you just said, bias to action. Right? A lot of people, they just wait way too long before they go into the market and they start getting feedback. About a month into doing the interviews, I came up with this concept, which was the napkin idea. And it wasn't sell me your pen, it was sell me your napkin, sell me this napkin, right? And the whole idea, this is what I did with face to face. I sold a napkin basically, but the whole idea is you write your idea down on a napkin, and if you can sell that to 5, 10 people for at least $100, then your idea is worth something and you should continue, right? If you can't sell your napkin, don't do anything else. Find a napkin that you can sell, right?
Right.
This is where a lot of people get it wrong. They never show their napkin to anybody. They go hire a developer and they start building something which is going to be completely useless. They don't know it's going to be useless. The developer doesn't know it's going to be useless. And you spend 3 months, right? You spend 5, 10, 20, 30K. God forbid it's more than that. For a lot of people, it's a lot more. And you end up with useless tech that nobody wants. So,
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good learning. It's also sometimes the clients we help um, who are a little bit in that situation. Not that they have a WordPress ID because they usually already have customers, so they're past that first initial stage. But then it's like, who are we actually for, and what's actually our main USP slash value prop slash North Star as to why customers buy us and use us, right? So yeah, that's amazing. Also, when I was doing my own SaaS, I felt like I remove as much friction as possible, and the best way to do that is like sell the concept, not the not the product. Sell the solution, identify this something you want to invest in, and then your first customers will become, they buy Nick, right? They buy Nick. I'm pretty sure everyone using face-to-face is mainly buying into it because of you. So maybe that's something you could share with the audience as well. Like, how do you do that then? Like, how do you get those first 5 to 10 customers? Also, what's a good timeline if they would be evaluating or trying to validate multiple ventures at the same time, or multiple solutions at the same time?
hold on. Before we go into that, you had a SaaS?
Yeah, I had a early AI note taker solution. Actually,
No way!
it was more supposed to be for like field sales, or like a sales assistant somehow for sales conversations. Yeah.
That's sick. I'm actually building my own right now for internal purposes because I can't access, so like Fathom, Fireflies, Otter, all the big ones, they don't have like an easy API that I can like, and also I'm looking for a solution that I can add to face-to-face calls. And yeah, man, like there's nothing out there. They all like kind of like assume that I want to use their interface, and they don't assume that like maybe I just am like a wizard and I just want an API and I want to send it to meetings using my own stuff. So
I'll
there's
connect you
like
with
only
one of my customers. They have an API. It's called Demo Desk.
okay.
They have that. Yeah, actually nice.
I'll check it out. Interesting. Nice.
They're moving to more of a backend solution. But anyway,
Very cool.
another shameless plug, man. We're just
Yeah,
promoting
yeah. I mean,
other
please, by all means, like we need like whenever you find a good tool, I don't think it's I think it's your duty to like tell someone about it, right? It's like you have to. Um
Yeah.
I, I'm the worst affiliate in the world. I have so many affiliate deals with so many people. Just this year, from referring Jake, referring my other friend that you've done business with, and like a couple other guys, I should theoretically have earned about $20,000 in commissions. But I just hate going around and asking my friends, like, "Hey, bro." Like, we kind of agreed that like when I would send you business, you would like cut me a check. So I'm currently eating ramen noodles, bootstrapping my startup. It would be really nice, really nice if you could just send me like, I don't know, like the 10% you promised me, it would be really cool. But yeah, it's against my DNA to go and ask. So if one day they want to buy me a Rolex, by all means, or if they want to just quietly wire me some money after they see this episode, that would be great too.
We'll plug your PayPal in the description.
But yeah, all that to say, I'm like the worst affiliate in the world. I usually just refer my friends, and even if we have an agreement, I usually never ask for the commission. So yeah.
You should. But anyway, back to the question. Yeah, I mean, you definitely should. But anyway, back to the question. Like, how did you leverage? This is definitely going to be a very raw and authentic recording. I just forgot the question, but how do you leverage? Yeah, how do you leverage
Your
like?
idea was how I got my first customers.
Yeah, exactly. Like how the back of the napkin, and then where do you find your first customers? What are some tactics you've been using? You mentioned outbound calls. You're obviously a growth-minded guy. You know, you're a coder as well, or no coder, and yeah,
So
tell us about it.
yeah, um, man, this is gonna sound like I don't know what it's gonna sound like. It might sound strange to some people. It might suck for some others, but it's like the truth. And the truth is, the closer you are to your ICP, the better off you are. Right? Like my ICPs are SaaS founders. I've I've chosen SaaS founders as my ICPs. There's some other groups which we service currently, which we've received, like we got these clients, I don't know how, and they're all great ICPs, but I choose SaaS founders as my ICPs because they're the ones I can call at midnight, right? I have like a list of 20, 30 of them that I can just call at midnight and I can be like, hey man, you know that feature we were talking about yesterday? And then we can talk for 2 hours about life, their wives, their kids, the next trip to Barcelona or whatever bullshit. And the ability to do that, right, is it just gives you such a huge advantage in terms of product design and solution design. And the feedback loops are not only more frequent, but they're deeper, they're higher quality, they're basically on demand because these people, like, they're your friends, right? And so if you have a niche that's like that, right,
Yeah.
you should, in my opinion, go build for that niche. Everybody has problems. There's so many problems in the market. Find the ICP that you personally are the closest to, right, and try to start with that. I think that that's the best advice I have for anyone out there. um, when I started in SaaS, I didn't have a network in SaaS, right? I didn't have one. I had a couple guys that I had 12 people that I had built MVPs for. 11 of them went nowhere. I didn't know anyone in SaaS. Back then, I had Expandy, Lemlist, uh, HeyReach, and a couple other ones on my website for a SaaS that I had built. I didn't even know who these guys were. I started going to conferences and eventually I met all these founders. And today I have them on my phone as contacts in WhatsApp and I can call them wherever. Um, but back then I didn't know them. So this is why I bought the microphone. I started going to the conferences so I could meet these people. And in a year, right? In a year, my life completely changed from investing time in doing that. So network first, find the people first, build the relationships first, then go into like actually selling the product or like developing it. I think it's going to increase your chances of succeeding by at least 10x.
Right. So do I get it right, Nick, that you're saying like number one is get into their worlds, like right? Choose an audience, any audience that you might want to learn more about. Like in your case, kind of felt natural. Like, oh, I tried to launch MVPs, SaaS products. I failed. I don't know what to do. Let me go and ask people who are actually doing it, right? Scratching your own, itch,
Exactly.
so to say. You became friends with them. Then, because of that, you now have them on speed dial, which gives you a competitive advantage for any SaaS you might want to launch because they're in the same scenario, making them more inclined to want to go and geek out at
Yeah,
midnight over some features.
exactly. It gives
Amazing.
you the best quality insights possible. It gives you retention, like the best retention possible. They'll be honest with you. If you're not like, pardon my English, if you're not a pussy, right? If you're able to take feedback and you're looking for it and you ask them to be harsh with you, they're gonna they're gonna give you the real stuff, right? they're going to actually use your product since you're building it for them, and you'll get really high quality feedback, which is going to help you build an amazing product, right? It's almost like if you're not doing this, I feel like you're trying to skip a step, right? It's amazing. Everybody wants to be a SaaS founder. I think that 95% of the people who are SaaS founders are not real founders. I call them fake SaaS founders. Um, there's like a couple people I call like fake something something. And it's
Wounders?
like,
Are they like wounders? Wannabe founders?
yeah, you can call them whatever you want, really, but it's like there's so many criterias in my opinion to like being a real SaaS founder. But one of them is truly understanding your ICP and the problem you're solving and really, really caring about it. Like you can't sleep at night if you have a bug, it's like it's that bad.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm. What are
yeah.
some of the other criteria of like actual SaaS founders, according to you?
I think it's like it's a couple different things, but um, one of them is it's like they're engineers first, right? In my opinion, like bro, you're building a software company. A software, by definition, is a product of engineering. If you're not approaching it from an engineering standpoint, if there's no one on your team that's an engineer, like a real one, and that person is shaping the architecture of the solution, and you're going to miss out on a lot of ecosystem plays. And software today, more than ever, it's an ecosystem play. It's a world of APIs. If you don't have an amazing API, you might get to like 5 million, 10 million ARR or whatever. I don't think you'll ever be a unicorn. And even if you are a unicorn, it'll be a very low margin one that's probably not profitable.
Mhm.
I think that it really, in order to be a real SaaS founder, you have to think like an engineer and you have to think in terms of like this is a software, right? It's not just a marketing play, it's not just an offer, right? Like marketers like to call it an offer. It's not. It's a fucking product. It's something that requires engineering. The same way a BMW has really smart engineers building it, the same way a software product should have really smart engineers building it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So besides the product, do you feel the engineering mindset could be applied to growth as well, to like building revenue systems? Because these days there's new terms like GTM engineer and all that being thrown around. So what's your opinion on that? Oh, we're rebuilding the mic.
Yeah, I'm switching. I didn't charge this thing since I left Dublin 6 months ago. So hold on.
Wow.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I love Rode. Rode is my favorite company, probably in the world. Thank you so
Turning too
much,
much into
Rode.
publicity, but indeed, road club, road club.
Um, man, I think that like engineering and marketing is the same thing. It's just looking at it like from a different standpoint. Like one of them is how do you engineer the product, and the other one is how do you engineer the perception of the product, right? They're really the same thing, and a founder should be doing both, right? In my opinion, like a real founder understands both the realms. Some teams, and I that's not my case. Like I'm a solo founder. Um, I think about everything from the architecture of the product to the architecture of the brand. Um, it's I think it's necessary to a certain degree. I don't think everybody has that. I don't think it's I I'm contradicting myself. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's extremely important to have both areas covered. It might not be covered by the same person, that's okay, but you should have at least two very synergetic people covering both ends. Extremely important. Like go to market, marketing, branding, positioning, messaging, the whole go to market, right? We can dive into it, but it's absolutely engineering. It's perception engineering. It's psychological. There's a lot of elements to it. Like a simple, how do we like one thing is building an integration, another thing is announcing the integration. right? And how do you handle the whole, and literally like an integration could bring you 10,000 users, and the same integration could bring you 5 users, and it's all about how do you engineer the release. So things like that are extremely important. Oftentimes, technical founders, because they're typically introverted or they're just like in their, their product bubble, they stop thinking about the outside world. And that's a huge mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel personally a bit of a shift lately. Maybe it's also because of the ecosystem or communities I'm part of, but I feel more and more younger founders or technical people want to understand distribution as well, as much as they understand that. Um, and I personally feel that it's becoming increasingly more difficult, and the gap between people who understand growth and people who execute on growth is becoming bigger and bigger in my personal opinion. So, to your saying of from an engineering perspective, I totally agree with that. Even though I don't know how to code, I can understand it. I never studied it, but I can understand the principles behind it. But I am very tech savvy when it comes to growth, and so I feel a lot of my peers, if they're gonna have a hard time catching up on what's necessary technically these days in order to engineer growth, um, rather than actually understanding growth at a magnitude.
Yeah. To be honest, just like in every shift of the market, like it's pretty ruthless, right? And a lot of people get wiped. Um, this time around, I think it's going to be particularly ruthless because the barrier to entry is being lowered. And when the barrier to entry gets lowered, there's more entrants coming into the market, which means that if you're average or below average, you don't stand out. And now you're competing against 10, 100 times more people that also don't stand out. However, if you do stand out, if you're really good, right? Now you stand out so much because there's like a huge pool of people that are essentially marketing for you, right? They're all spreading the messaging, right? They're all warming up the market. The market is buying your services in bigger quantities than ever before, but they don't want to buy it from the bottom feeders. They want to buy it from the top dog. So you're getting a bunch of free marketing. If you are a top dog, you get all the deals, right? And it's
Yeah,
ruthless, but there's no better time to become really good at something than right now.
true. Honestly, my understanding of it is that I see those top dogs often being the ones with the most shitty product, whereas they are actually a lot of SaaS who are saying, "Oh, build the best product ever, and you'll never have issues." But I don't think that's true. So I definitely believe that you can be as great as engineering a product if you don't know how to figure out distribution. You're F. And even so, of course, I'm biased on this, but distribution is always more important than the product. Um, and so, especially in this time of AI agents, APIs, and stuff, what do you think? And then maybe we'll dive before we dive into more specifics on outbound or building in public. But how do you think AI agents and topics like that will affect SaaS products with a from a front end perspective? I
What do you mean from a front end perspective? Like the front end of SaaS products, or
Yeah, because if you, I mean, look, my view. At the end of the day, and again, this is like very theoretical. It's also highly dependent on innovativeness of market, innovativeness of solution, audience, etc. So definitely we're not there yet. But just at the end of the day, a SaaS or software solution is an automation of some kind of process, right? You are essentially replacing a process or adding a process that wasn't done because of how hard it was to do manually, or you're just making it faster, a bit more efficient and cheaper than using manual labor, right? Because that's what makes a sticky product. It's like you're just offering something that they are already doing. It's much harder if you're offering something that they're not doing yet, which is another thing we can tap into. But so now that people are using ChatGPT, all that stuff, they are releasing operators. There's no-code platforms turning into building AI agents, which is again a chain of commands that runs in the backend and has some kind of an impact on the front end. Let's say we now have a CRM, which at the end of the day is basically a database with a front end made for users, made for non-technical salespeople to be able to look at a graph and it looks nicer than in Excel. Now, if I am a sales leader these days and my data is in a backend, securely stored on a server that I own, and I build an interface with any type of platform or whatever solution out there that allows me to prompt or to just chat with that data and say, hey, show me a graph of Q3 forecast, right? And I have the data within 20 seconds. And why would I need a front end where I can manually configure the same, right? So that's a little bit where that question comes from, where I believe the biggest issue of SaaS is, besides distribution, is user adoption, right? Churn. For most, it's very high. So that means users don't want to use the product or whatever, right? And so I believe there's massive opportunity there for SaaS products to solve real problems, but might have a complex solution and thus might struggle with user adoption to move to a usage-based product and become more of a backend solution that runs into an existing platform that their users are already using or whatever. I believe there's massive opportunity there. At the same time, I believe there will be some kind of wipeouts of nice to have products with a very good looking front end, because that will become obsolete. Curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Look, I think that at the end of the day, what matters more than ever, like agents, okay, put it this way. AI agents are here. Okay. I built 2 agents today. I've been building agents to automate every possible thing that I'm doing that sucks, and to automate a bunch of things which I want to do, which we haven't been doing because it requires whatever, right? People doing it. You need to be building agents on your free time if you're a founder. That's my opinion. First of all. Second of all, how is that going to impact SaaS? Well, what does your agent use? It uses tools. Okay? It uses tools. What are these tools? Their software is connected via API, right? So if you want to position for the AI age, make sure your software is API first. If your software is API first, you can integrate into absolutely anything, right? Any interface your user wants. I'll just backtrack 7 years. Okay. My first job ever. I was the first RevOps hire in a company. I was actually a data analyst, 17 years old. I was hired to analyze spreadsheets. Okay. Which today completely AIable. Shout out camelai.com. And yeah, completely AIable. So what I actually did at that job, which like I was as the first RevOps, was connect all the systems using Zapier. My ultimate decision for buying one tool versus the other was how good is their API docs? How good is the API docs of this tool? And I was connecting everything into Salesforce. We were paying like 6 figures a year for Salesforce at that company. And we wanted everything to be in Salesforce and Slack because that's the only interface I wanted my reps to use. So they paid me a ton of money and my team of 5 people, which I was leading at age like 18, 19, to integrate everything into Salesforce. And if a software did not have an API and it didn't have a good API, a great API, I was not buying that software because my reps would not spend time outside of Salesforce. That was the case 7 years ago. It's the case today. And it's going to be definitely the case in 5 years from now. So I think that's how founders should position. If your app is highly relevant on an interface, you're fucked. Plain and simple. Like, you should go get a job, right? Or figure out how to pivot this thing, because it's not going to be, unless it really needs an interface. But if it doesn't need an interface, you should think about it this way. You should assume that no one's going to want to use your interface. That's what you should assume.
Yeah. I believe that as well. Also, it's gonna make their life much easier. Right. Also, gonna be less expensive. And more.
It's less expensive. You become a part of their engine, right? Like, okay, like how, people are stopping to pay for things per month. Like, whenever you see a $500 per month plus blah, 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 like, it's just a turnoff. I don't use Clay, even though I should. And I'm going way out of the way to find alternatives, because to use their API, it's $350 a month. And I'm like, we're bootstrapped. Like, I don't want to spend $350 a month. I'm not sure if I can use Clay. So if Clay is watching this, just open up your free trial to a month and give people like 10K credits. Because I'm pretty sure if I were to use Clay, if I had enough credits to build my workflows, I wouldn't move away and I would keep using it. But yeah, like, this is a huge problem. People gatekeep their softwares. People still think like we've been in a recession for the last 4 years. And some softwares are still charging $2,000 a month for something that's completely commoditizable. Like, they're going to get wiped out. Like, someone's going to come and they're going to make a usage-based pricing with no SaaS fee or a very low SaaS fee, and they're going to wipe them. It's the world we're going towards. Yeah.
Yeah, very very interesting. Very
interesting. Something else on the topic, right? I think this part is really important. The future of search is going to dictate who becomes the obvious choice, right? The LLMs are choosing what solutions we use. Okay, your solution needs to be easy for the LLM to understand, easy for the LLM to make plans on how it's going to use your solution, not how your business is going to use the solution, how the LLM itself is going to use your solution. Your API docs need to be on point. Your pricing needs to be simple. You need to be able to create an account, set up an API key, and like, ideally using terminal commands, right? Because the LLM is going to be the one creating the account for the business. In a year or 2 or 3, the operator is just going to say, hey, create a workflow that does this. You have a budget of $100 per month. And the LLM is going to create the account. It's going to do absolutely everything. If your software is not positioned for that day, when it comes, you will end up at the bottom of the search list so far that you're going to get no traffic, right? And your competitor who did the simple thing is going to get all the leads.
How can people get into the LLM database, search database?
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's quite a question.
I don't know. I think the truth is that no one knows. I think the truth is that no one knows, because where is the LLM search today, right? The LLM search, in my opinion, is going to evolve 5 times over. It's going to renew itself like a phoenix that dies and comes back at least 5 times over the next 2-3 years. The important thing though is that you have that in mind and you just document the shit out of everything and you try to make using your product as easy and as usage based as possible.
Yeah, I think there's some all of these kind of have documentation around how it works, but it's still like there's needs to be more clarity and transparency around it, honestly, because also to increase or to better use these tools that are available or these LLMs, we need to be able to understand them better and then we can rank. But I think right now it's still very much, yeah, Google or like SEO based. I think indexing is still a thing. Like the more easy it is to be found on publicly available sources, and the more you're mentioned, probably the easier the AI will find it right now. So then, like traditional SEO, SEA, that still working. But yeah, really interesting thoughts. So bring us back, Nick, to the. I mean, you're 8 months, 9 months in. You've been building in public from day one, I think. What has that done to your business? So you've used the interviews for learnings. You documented your journey on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure if on other socials as well. But yeah, tell me, how does that impact your growth? Do you get customers that way? Take us through it.
Yeah. I think building in public, it's definitely not for everybody. I think you need the personality for it and you need to have the balls to do it. It essentially becomes you against your competitors, but your competitors are not saying anything and you're giving them all the insights that you're uncovering in real time, which which can be extremely advantageous for you if you know how to use it. So I think that's one thing, but it has been an extremely rewarding process. I think like more than half of our customers came from my LinkedIn. Um, but what it creates, right? And we're entering an era of super brands, right? Where it's like you're not just buying this company's tool. You're like bought into the founder, you're bought into the employees of the company who also have personal brands. You're bought into, you're listening to their podcast, you're wearing their merch, you're going to the events they're going because you want to hang out with them. Um, this is the era we're entering into. And it's a very special, it's a very special thing where, you know, like until now, workaholics were kind of like Workaholics Anonymous, right? It's like, you know, the guy's a workaholic because like he makes a lot of money and that was pretty much it. LinkedIn and this kind of like unveiling the personality of people, which started happening like a couple of years ago on LinkedIn, because until like recently it was kind of like this bland, everyone had a LinkedIn, no one used it, right? But now it's like the main platform for people like us. It's what that has done is open up an opportunity, like an unprecedented opportunity to build real rapport with your audience, right? Super deep rapport. Um, I posted something like an hour ago that says nothing, right? It says, I have uncovered the biggest insight I've ever uncovered about face to face, and it ends with to be continued, right? And I got like 12 comments at this point from people being like, oh, please don't gatekeep. Tell us. We want to hear what's going on. What did you uncover? Right. So people are bought in. And what this creates is like super fans, which talk about you, right? They talk about you to their friends, to their customers, to their family. Like, and this creates an unbelievable amount of positive word of mouth. It's something that you can, if you do this properly, uh, like a year into it, 2 years into it, you'll have posts. Like your benchmark for a post will be 100 comments because you'll always have the same 100 people commenting on your posts. So that's a crazy benchmark to be at, because if the post does well, it does really, really well, right? So there's like a lot of mechanics to it, but it's led to a lot of things. Like I get invited to founder events, I get invited to speak, I get invited to podcasts like this one, all kinds of things. Which, if you're just sitting in your corner and no one knows who you are and what you're doing, like, what your only way to reach people is by like sending connection requests, running ads, and sending emails. Right? Whereas if you have a personal brand, like you go to the conference, you don't pay for the tickets, right? You come in and like you're automatically VIP, right? And you get invited to the private side events after that, and all this stuff, which is where you can really do business that's meaningful, right? Way more meaningful than booking demos. So I think that there's a lot of intangible benefits to it. I think people who try to measure the impact of growing their LinkedIn are idiots, because it's not your LinkedIn you're growing, it's your personal network as a human on earth, right? And if you're a super ambitious person, you need a big network. So yeah, that's my rant.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And actually, going into that post, can you tell me what is that thing? I mean, maybe you don't want to share for about the product necessarily, but you're like being schooled on your cold email game. So I think it's interesting if you could share that learning. Um,
Yeah, so we've been sending emails to our competitors' followers on LinkedIn, right? And it's like a whole shebang on figuring out how to do that. But once you figure it out, it's pretty cool. And yeah,
it's not that
some
hard.
really good responses. Booked a couple demos, and essentially we have this competitor. They charge $2,000 per month. It's not the same solution per se, but it kind of allows you to FaceTime people on your website. Um, yeah, it's more of like a complete ABM, like all bound system they sell, but whatever. It's $2K per month. And I messaged their followers and I'm like, hey, like sequence 1, 2, 3. And on the fourth one, it says like competitor 98% off, right? Because that's true. And I'm like, yeah. And so that guy, that I emailed, he said, I used to work at competitor name, right? And then he proceeds by schooling me. He's like that enterprise customers don't give a shit about paying $2,000 a month. Like for them, it's nothing. And he proceeds by explaining to me how by telling them I'm 98% cheaper, I'm
They don't
actually
care.
doing the counter of what I'm trying to do, which is I'm turning off all these. It's like a huge turn off to these guys because they're wondering, well, if his solution is any good, why is it so cheap? Right. So he kind of schooled me on that there. So two things I got schooled on. One of them is the targeting should definitely do a better job at cleaning up the list and not message anyone who ever worked there. That's one.
Okay.
Yeah. A good reason to spend 10K a month on Clay. And then reason number two is actually like segment the people correctly and be like, okay, these are enterprise customers. I should probably not talk about price at all. I should probably focus on some selling points that are more related to, I don't know, enterprise people. And then the startups or the solopreneurs that happen to be following the page, well, then them I can talk to them about price. Right? So segmenting and filtering, I think, are two very, very important things.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, there's barely any one size fits all in those different categories, right? And I've heard similar stories about enterprise RFPs where startups think they should price as low as possible, but they always end up losing the deal because they don't trust it. And it's not about the fact that they want to pay a lot, because enterprise customers also love a good bargain. It's just the trust that is and the quality that it represents. So yeah, cool. What are some other tactics, Nick, that you're using these days, um, besides the competitor followers, to get meetings booked to convert customers into
Yeah,
paying?
I think there. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different tactics that I'm using. Some of them are I'm like like I'm actively using and they're like working really well. So I don't necessarily want to talk about those for the moment. Um, but I'll tell you one thing. Like if your solution um like solves, let's say it replaces something that people already have on their website, right? And that thing they already have on their website, like your solution is like a no-brainer, right? To replace that. And I think you should just go and get the list of everyone who has that thing on their website and just fucking slam them with as much outbound as possible until they realize that, like, hey, I should probably use Nick's thing, right? So it's like the better way of doing it. My approach to outbound and my philosophy, which I think is probably the most important thing that I can transfer to you guys, is you're selling something that's going to make their lives better. If that's true, it's your duty to go out there and make sure they know about it. If you're not doing that, then you're failing upon your duty as a human and as a builder to make their lives better by basically pussing out because you fear the rejection of going out there and telling them about it, right?
So
It's
if you're not doing outbound, you're basically admitting your product isn't good enough.
if you're
And
not doing
besides,
if you're not doing outbound, you're basically pussying out, right? Because your product, no matter what it is, you should be doing outbound. I don't care what stage you're at. You should be doing outbound. I don't care what stage you're at. You should be taking demos. There's nothing more important than talking to your market. If you like, I I never say no to a call with someone in B2B SaaS. Like it could be midnight because they might give me an insight about the market, or I might tell them something and they're going to give me feedback about my solution from their standpoint. It's so freaking important. Like your number one job as a founder is to be on calls. Like it's your number one job. Be on calls with people in your market. It's the most important thing. I don't know at what stage you're at. Like I was on calls. It's crazy. I looked at my Calendly before I started face to face. When I was selling, like last year, I was just doing a bunch of different consulting. I was like a middleman, right? I was making like pretty good money just doing random stuff like personal branding, like helping people launch their podcasts, like all kinds of different stuff. Um, but I did 400 calls between January and July. I had like 12 clients. Like it's not, but I did 400 calls. The insights I got during those calls are what led to me building face to face.
mhm.
You need to constantly be on calls with your market. There's no reason why you shouldn't be running a campaign right now. Even if the campaign sucks, even if one person's going to answer you over the next 60 days, the simple fact that you're trying, right? It can be optimized. You can call Olivier and be like, hey, man, I'm running this campaign. It sucks. Can you help me? He'll help you. Your campaign is going to suck less, right? And it's going to do a better job. Your product might be shit, but having those conversations with people, you're going to learn, hey, why did this guy take the call? Why did he reply to my email? All those things are insights. They're insights. You can try
100%.
different emails. Just get those insights. Get smarter. Learn about the market. Use outbound as a way to gather feedback, if not on your product, on your messaging. You never have to reply to those people. Just see that they said, yes, I'm interested, and be like, okay, great, right? It's your job. This is your duty. As a founder, you need to be doing this.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah, as a founder, as a CEO, as a CRO, whatever. And I also really relate to the fact that you need to stay in the trenches from time to time. Obviously, as the company gets bigger, it's kind of becoming impossible. But I feel as a founder, you need to have these direct feedback. So yeah, I already look forward to the days where we are a little bit bigger, and then I can call randomly a customer who's probably never even spoke. Hey, what's your experience like, right? And to then get like some really good feedback. But yeah, also some of our best clients, they really value that that market insight that it brings. And also, especially like imagine you're targeting enterprise customers. One thing that we'll see happening is like they'll write an RFP, and you would have never received that RFP if you wouldn't have sent that all-bound email, right? Because that's exactly what happened multiple times for multiple of my clients, where even when I was doing just sales for them, I would send them emails, call them, speak to someone on their phone, say like, hey, you haven't thought about this, you're maybe doing this, like, I figured that you're running some kind of digital transformation project. If this topic is a thing, you should think about this, this, and that. And I'm pretty sure none of the competitors or no one you're talking to will give you those insights besides us, right? So is there any reason why you wouldn't take a call? Blah, 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 blah. Then months later, you suddenly get this random email, special invitation for RFP, blah, blah. And you call the same person and say like, what the hell happened? You ghosted me. Now we are invited for this RFP. And they're like, yeah, because of what you said at a timely manner. So yeah, 100%. It works. Outbound is not dead.
Definitely not. And I think like depending on so different people use email a different way, because what you have to understand when you're doing outbound email, like you have a way of using email and you're biased in your perception of how other people are going to receive your email based on how you use email. What I learned is that everyone uses email differently. Some people organize it in little folders. Some people have superhuman. Some people never check it, right? And other people, they go through their spam and they read everything and they just enjoy reading every email they receive. Some people read Harry Potter. Bro, I don't know a single. I'm like, when someone tells me they read Harry Potter, I look at them like they're crazy. I'm like, what do you mean you read 20,000 pages of J.K. Rowling? Like, I love the movies, but bro, I'm not going to sit there for 500 hours and read all the Harry Potter. Some people do it. I think it's extremely important for anyone who's venturing into outbound to understand that, dude, your
100%.
email might sit in that guy's inbox for 6 months. And one day he's going to open it in 6 months when he's going to be, I don't know, on a boat, right? Or whatever. He's going to be
Yeah.
waiting somewhere. And he's going to
Finally,
read
it's
your
getting
thing
close.
and it'll be exactly what he was looking for that week. It
Yeah.
happened to me 2 weeks ago. Some guy calls me on my website, right? Because that's what we do. We enable people to call us under our website. And I'm like, hey, and they're like, oh my God, we love this thing. We have 50 clients. We think they should all use it, blah, 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 right? Solar installers. And I'm like, okay, how did you find out about us? I asked this question to everybody, right? How did you find out about us? Matter of fact, when someone connects with me on LinkedIn, I have a shortcut on my phone, WG for what's good, yo. And then I have HF, how did you find out about me? Everyone. How they find out about me? I sent them a cold email 2.5 months ago, a campaign that I thought had no ROI. It was terrible targeting, terrible everything. But these guys saw it and they loved it. And they called me on my website. And now we have a potential partnership where they might bring me literally 50 clients, which would double the size of my business. That campaign, I thought it led to nothing. And boom, there's this. And who knows what else will come out of it. So yeah, I don't think there's an excuse to not be sending emails. Like whatever it costs, like what does the infrastructure cost? It's not that high. Yeah, and if you're targeting properly, and if you're using signals, and if you have a guy like Olivier who's a fucking wizard who's setting this up for you, and not like me, like I just literally I'm a redneck. I shoot in the dark. Right? I send emails to my competitors' employees pitching them my product. Right? If you use Olivier, it's gonna basically guarantee that you're sending like small amounts of emails, but that they're hitting the right people at the right time. And like, there's no way that you can't ROI on that. Like, there's no way. So,
Yeah, exactly. And it's quite funny that you say that because I said that to a potential customer today who was like, yeah, like, does it even still work? Or, how are they going to read the email? Because I get a lot of emails and they're like all so short. And so everyone is like following that advice. And I'm like, have you asked your customers how they use email? just ask them, like, you know, probably if you ask 10, 15 of your customers and then a bunch of different people, like multi-layers, they'll say, I use email like this, I use email like that. Okay, so what messages do you respond to and those kind of things? And you can actually interview them and like they can tell you, right? You don't need to shoot in the dark, you can get the answer. But other than that, yeah, I also believe that it's funny because I'm also not a big email user myself. I'm on Slack all the time and I get so many emails that yeah, I probably should use more labels and stuff like that so that I can filter things out. But it's actually the same thing. I do the same thing. Like suddenly I read it or I remember seeing this email. Then when I have the problem, I go back to it and I reach out, ask a bunch of questions. And it's quite funny how little people follow up, how bad they are. Like sometimes you get an outbound email, you reply, and they forget to reply back to you. Then after 3, 4 weeks, they're like, hey, oh, sorry, I forgot to reply. Like, that's also stupid, right? Like, then it's really, you know, might as well not send a message and you're not going to follow up, right? So, um, yeah, this is all kinds of stuff happening in outbound lands, but very interesting thing. So
What
I
do you
think,
find? What do you find is like the biggest mistake people make when they start running outbound, or let's say when they hire an agency?
oh, when they hire an agency, interesting. Um, Let me put it in a. Usually, we are more successful when we work with people who understand that it's for the insights as well as the learnings, as well as like they're more often than not they are actually hiring us to figure out message marketing for them rather than they are already in a let's scale outbound phase. Very few people who that's a thing that's what I think one of their biggest mistakes. Like they hire an agency to scale outbound, but they don't know what works yet. So obviously you can't scale, right? And so you need to run micro campaigns. And I believe that micro campaigns can be highly successful. Even though we do scale, we're in small markets. We're in Europe, mainly Belgium, Netherlands, Spain, whatever, like smaller markets. I mean, Spain is kind of new, but still, not like US, right? So we don't have the luxury of volume. So then you need to be like thinking, oh, people are gonna probably receive like, I don't know, 20 emails from us in the next year or so. How can we make sure these are like the best email will have ever received, right? And how can we also hit them on LinkedIn? How can we also hit them on phone? And what's the best um, combination of all those? And so that becomes a more strategic thing where the engineering stuff comes into play rather than that when I've had calls with US customers, they're like, we want to send 100,000 emails per month. And I'm like, why? Because right now we send 10K and we have like 0.2% reply rate. And we only book that amount of meetings and we don't close them. So I was like, so you probably should focus on closing more right now. Like your problem is not meetings. The problem is if you have 40 meetings and you only close one customer, you need to work on your closing, man. Like that's where your issue is. Um, so yeah, like all those kind of things, I really find it weird. And I'm not saying volume is definitely important. We should probably do more of it as well. Um, but yeah, I would prefer to like consistently have 8 to 10 meetings a month rather than having like these huge spikes. And so, um, if you would come to us and what would be like the best way for success is for you to have like, hey, here's all the stuff you need to know, very well documented, potentially with a video of one of your either the founder or the CEO or your sales leader or the best salesperson explaining you the market and the buyer persona. Here's 10 phone numbers of customers that you can call and ask them whatever you want. They've already agreed to it. Um, and now based on that, you can like use my existing messaging, which gets me this results, and you can start making campaigns from there. And we can probably do that in a couple of days we would have all that, right? That would be there, clear on a silver platter. Obviously, we have our onboarding and our Notion space to walk them through it. But most of them, they don't know. And so now, if you don't know, then you have no leverage for us because we will help you figure it out.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, what they get wrong too is like outbound doesn't work. Okay. Like you're spending 80% of your focus on gathering the ability to send email, and you're spending 20% of it, maybe even less, drafting the actual. Sorry, people are spending way too much time on getting the infrastructure and um, writing the copy, and they're not spending enough time on the who and the when, right? The who and the when are so freaking important. It's like,
Yeah.
let's say you could only send 5 emails a day. Who would you
Yeah.
send them to? And would you send five? Or would you maybe send one really good one to the
Yeah.
perfect person?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is like,
100%.
if I ask people, like, I think this is a great exercise for people out there. Okay. Let's say you could only send 5 emails a day. Who would you email?
Yeah.
I think if that was the exercise, I think people would end up sending maybe one or two emails.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, again, one thing that I will see them do is probably they'll spend like 80% of their time trying to figure it out rather than sending that. Like, let's take what they should do. If they can't answer it within 30 minutes or an hour, they should use that ammo, 5 emails a day, to test a bunch of shit for the next
Yeah.
2 to 4 weeks, document it, figure out what worked best, and then only send to those, only send to the ones that reply positively, and like analyze and reverse engineer. Now it becomes super hard, and that's why I believe also in like getting a historical map of your customer journey online, like a digital blueprint or footprint, sorry, that allows you to say, hey, you've raised funding, but it's not like, hey, you raised funding, but it will be like, hey, Nick, you raised funding 6 months ago, you hired 3 people, you're growing month over month, 22% based on your LinkedIn posting and building public. You have, interviewed 350 plus founders, so around product market fit. Obviously, you know how it works. I imagine now you are stuck here in this exact phase. This is how others like you got unstuck. We help them this way. Mine's me telling you more about it. There's no way you'll say no to that. There's no freaking way. Either you might say it's not timing or I'm traveling or whatever, but you want to hear more for sure because I have all this historical data. And so at this point, the list and the data is the message, right? It is me knowing exactly this happened. Based on this, I can build a hypothesis. And so that's another thing where I feel it's it's never about your product. It's always about the hypothesis because at the end of the day, you need to find out. And that's one thing that I did manually and I spent a lot of time on. Also, cold calling for me was huge to figure that out. It's like, how can you get people to say what their actual problems are, what their actual challenges are, and then even like be a challenger or more consultant around what their actual problem is. Um, and that's where I
Yeah.
feel a good email can make the difference as well.
Dude, 100%. But that's the engineer mind, right? Like, okay, people ask me, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm building a SaaS. But what does my day look like? Bro, my day looks like looking through my clients' websites and trying to figure out where's the best place I should put buttons, right? I'm like literally redesigning my clients' onboarding flows. I'm redesigning their in product experiences. I'm redesigning their websites because it's directly tied to my product's performance, right? If they inject my product, my pop up or my button or my whatever at the wrong place, it's not going to get any clicks. They're not going to get any calls. And then they're not going to give a shit about my product. They're just going to say it doesn't work. Right. So I like, should I be spending my time closing more deals or going on more podcasts, or should I be spending my time fucking in the trenches consulting my clients? Right? I have like 10 hours of calls this week where I'm going to be on calls with my client's team, working through their Figmas, working through their product. I'm doing their job for them. They have product managers paid to do that, yet I'm here with my blue light blockers doing that work for beer. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me switch.
I guess someone called you on your website.
Can't access video. Not sure what's happening. Let me close everything.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just I don't know why. Okay.
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here, but they're like the latency is insane. Let me try to switch to my phone.
I think now it's okay.
Yeah, it's back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm spending all this time doing this extracurricular stuff, right? To basically make sure that my customers get ROI from my product. This is like, and again, this is why I say you should be close to your customers, because if you're just this random guy who sold them a software, like they're not going to necessarily let you kind of like grab like their team on a brainstorm call. But if you're good enough and you care enough and like you fight for it, they will. So essentially, this is the idea, right? Founders don't do that. Founders typically they build their product and they just assume that the customer will use it, right? Dude, like, so we sold this to 52 startups. Okay, 52 people have bought face to face to this date. It's like 50K ARR. Sounds great on paper, but the usage, the actual like people getting calls is like it's maybe like 10 to 15 customers are actually actively getting calls like every day, right? My job is to figure out how do I get the more calls and why the heck are the other ones not getting calls, right? I need to answer these questions. So I have a lot of work to do before, like, between selling the product and building more features. There's this huge iceberg of shit, which is all the questions as to why are these guys getting calls? Why are these guys not getting calls? How can I get these guys more calls? How can I get these guys to start taking calls? And I have to answer all these questions. Otherwise, my product is going to suck, right? It's not going to be an amazing product. It's not going to become the best in the market, right? And I'm not going to be the leader I want to be. And this work, this iceberg, it's something that you as the founder, like you need to be doing. Bro, if you're selling like a CRO product like we are, which really like all it is about is helping you have calls, which is it's like a conversion mechanism, right? Um, if you're not going to be in Figma all day, if you're not going to be like placing these things on websites and asking your customer, hey, can I have access to your WordPress login? Can I have access to your Webflow login? If you're scared of doing that stuff, I don't see how you can compete with a guy like me, right? Like I'm literally going to spend 10 hours a day optimizing my client's website, right? Like doing work that I should be charging them like $200 an hour for, and I'm going to do that for free, right? Just because I'm trying to get data about my product. Right? So, like, this is
100%.
real founder work. This is engineering work, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same thing with. It's the same thing with Olivier. Like I know, like you hired this guy, like he's gonna come in, he's gonna test out a million different hypotheses, right? Maybe he's gonna be like, oh, like like it's not working because we're pitching the wrong thing, right? It's not working because the landing page is not right. It's not working because like, there's so many things to optimize. Um, yeah, and this is what you want out of a partner like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Because we do the exact same thing. Like I said, even if the amount of leads is low, we'll make sure that they convert them at the highest rate, right? So I'll actually give them feedback on calls. I'll give them my frameworks on how I set up sales processes back in the day. What should a good discovery call look like? I'll build out their HubSpot for them. We set up all their reporting. There's so much more. We should be even charging much more, honestly. Um, like in the US, honestly, I think we would be at like 20, 30K a month for all the stuff we do, um, fairly easily. But we choose not to, and we get a lot of loyalty in return. We get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and we're seen as a long-term growth partner, which is exactly what I want. There's no other way to do it than to go the extra mile. And you're right. So biggest competitive advantage for founders, no matter the stage you're in, is do more than what others are willing to do for free.
Yes, because at the end of the day, nothing's free, right? If I help that guy make an extra $1 million this year, that reciprocity, right? That good karma or whatever you want to call it is worth a heck of a lot more than the 5, 10K I should have charged him instead of my $500,
Mhm.
right? That is worth way more. And the word of mouth and the case study, these are all ways that you're going to capitalize on it, which are worth more than the cash you're going to be charging. So many people make the mistake of trying to charge a lot of cash when they have no case studies, and they end up working for years and never having a case study. So
Yeah. Honestly, it's the same with all these people who approach me like they're building stuff in Play and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, we want to work with you. We want to learn." But then when it comes to salary and trust me, we don't pay little. We pay fairly. It's like, oh, but like, oh, I could get more in the US, or they want to get clients on their own as well. They don't want to give up on like having their own customers and things like that. And I'm like, yo, but if you're gonna be here the next 2 years, you'll never have to worry about anything in your life again professionally, and I'll personally guarantee you that. But if you're not willing to make any sacrifice for that, then you're not, this isn't the place for you, right? And I try to be transparent about that as soon as possible. It's what I did when I was younger. It's how I started. It's how I made a name for myself. It's how I um, grew my income exponentially by, putting in the work first, and then you'll get rewarded for it if you do good stuff. You actually become good at what you do. But there's so many people who try to oversell them, and then they underdeliver, and they just job hop, and they just get, you know, the expectations aren't properly managed on either one side. Um, so yeah, that's a
that's a huge problem in our economy. And I think it's the reason why we have so many incompetent people doing like in positions of a high leverage. Um, it's really scary. Like it used to be like 500 years ago, if you wanted to become a swordsmith, you would go work for a swordsmith in an apprenticeship for 10 years, right? There's a book about it. It's called Mastery. And the
Mhm.
whole concept of it is that unless you have 10,000 hours of experience doing something under someone who's way better than you are not a master, right? And in order for you to be worth anything in the marketplace, anything significant, you need to be a master at this thing. And like it's amazing the amount of people that think that just because they have some job title, right? Or because they got the amount of useless devs you'll find at Google who are making $500,000 a year salary plus have options is astonishing. And this is why Google has not shipped anything significant in the last 10 years. They were way ahead of everybody before AI. And look at them now. Like, when's the last time you used Gemini for anything? Fucking bullshit, right? And this is because they have accepted way like a swarm of people that had earned nothing, right? They had shiny university degrees, and instead of telling these people you will eat peanuts until you earn your stripes, they gave them $500,000 a year, and they were like, here you go, stock options. Even if you don't do anything for the next 5 years, you just stay here, you're gonna be worth like 50 mil, right? And these people are like, okay, cool, right? And they do all these design thinking workshops, and they drink all this kombucha, and they play all this ping pong. And guess what? When did they ship something meaningful to the world last time? Didn't happen, right? There's this zone of discomfort which is necessary in order for you to become a competent human being. When I started face to face, I dropped over 10K of monthly personal income. I relinquished it. And I said to myself, even if it takes me 20 hours a week to fulfill all these contracts I had and to run all these other ventures I had going on for me, I relinquished it because I wanted to feel the heat. I wanted for face to face to be self sustainable, right? Without needing me, right? I wanted my team to eat ramen noodles and fucking, I wanted to build a team of, of, of pirates that was willing to eat shit until we made money, right? And that's what I did. Like, I built a team of 6 people that have been with me, that have been growing. These guys didn't make a penny since until December. From July to December, they didn't make a fucking dollar. And they built the product and we shipped it. And the product was like amazing. It was something that like I easily could have charged 100K for someone else if I were to build it. And we built that for zero, okay, by a team of people that work weekends, evenings, okay, that don't ask me about anything. They just go and they ship. Why? Because that's the culture I created when I said, fuck this, right? I'm going to stop going to restaurants. I'm going to stop flying around. I couldn't attend half the conferences I was supposed to attend, right? I couldn't hire half the positions I wanted to hire because I said, you know what? We're not going to raise money until we have a strong enough product that I know is working because I don't want to waste investor money. And I want to be uncomfortable. I want to work a shitload. I want my brain to be challenged. Because if I had $500,000 in the bank right now of someone else's money, I don't think I would be making the decisions I'm making. I don't think I would be working as hard as I'm working. Yeah. It's extremely important. And everyone in my team, they know I could boost their salaries. They know we could go and raise money. They know they could live much better lives. But you know what? They also know that if that was the case, they wouldn't be learning as much as they're learning. And the quality of what we're building wouldn't be as high as the quality of what we're building now.
Yeah, 100%. Because I also feel at some point, like, if you raise too soon, you become employed, which is not at all why you started this in the first place, right? So it's kind of like selling your soul to the devil somehow, some way, making some strong statements here. But I believe it's through another founder that told me this thing. So yeah. All right, man. Any last words of wisdom before we wrap it up?
The future is face to face.
I was waiting for that one. I wanted to do it in the intro, but yeah, now you can literally do the mic, bro. Yeah. All right, there we go. Thanks, people. Thank you, Nick, for coming on. It was amazing. We were all over the place, but I'm sure there was insane value to be made here. So you'll see us both on LinkedIn or in another podcast, and also on the TechCon Awards in Bucharest. Cheers.
Pull up.
Pull up.